What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video. Today we are back in the S4, and today I want to talk about the integrated engineering intake for the B8 and B8.5 Audi S4. Let's get into it. So I've had this intake on the car for about 8,000 miles or so, and I feel like I have a really good understanding of this intake and the way it sounds and the way it performs and all that kind of stuff. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Now, the intake in question, like I said, is the integrated engineering intake. I thought I would wear my integrated engineering shirt that they threw in when I bought it. Not a paid product placement or anything. I paid completely, like, full price for it. And I just thought that I should wear it because they're great guys, they make great products, and we're going to talk about them a lot today. So this intake that I have on the car is the silicone intake. So it has the silicone tube that runs down to the air filter. Now, the integrated engineering one that they currently sell has a metal inlet tube, and that is because they changed over. And I'm not 100% sure why, but they changed almost overnight. They stopped having the silicone tubes. So I did a little bit of research on the forums, watched a couple of different videos and asked some questions on some of the forum groups that I'm part of. And they told me that the silicone intake is actually louder than the metal intake. So if you can find a silicone intake, you should probably take it. I can't speak for the metal inlet tube, but I can only speak for the silicone tube. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So let's get on the road. Okay, what better way than to just listen to it? Without me explaining it, I'll go into that in a little bit, but just take a listen. Here's the intake. So it sounds really good. Combined with the AWE touring exhaust that I have out back, it makes a gorgeous combination. So the first thing that I want to talk about is everybody's question: how loud is the intake? Because this engine is supercharged, everybody wants to hear the supercharger whine. So what I can tell you from experience, I drove a B8.5 S4 just like this one that had the ECS tuning intake, and I believe it's called like the Lufttechnik or something. It's something in German. I'm not very good at German. I should be, but I'm not. And that intake was really loud. That intake, pretty much across the whole RPM band, you could hear it. And it made a beautiful sound, had this beautiful carbon fiber overlay kind of thing going on. It was absolutely gorgeous to look at. And on the other spectrum, there's the Rock Euro intake. I had a friend that had an A7. It's the same 3-liter supercharged engine that Audi put in the A7s, which is really cool if you didn't know that. But I had a friend that had an A7, and he had a Rock Euro intake on that car. And I remember just how loud the supercharger whine was in that car. It was crazy. So I didn't really know what to expect. I never bought a product from Integrated Engineering before. I have had a lot of friends that have and have said really good things about it. So that's kind of what led me to it. So what I find is that this intake gets really loud in the higher RPMs. So right around maybe 4,200, 4,500 RPMs is when it gets really loud. Sometimes in the lower RPMs, around maybe 2,000-ish, when you're going up a hill, it makes a little bit of a whine, and just because it's forcing air into the engine, you know, that low-end torque that we all know and love from a supercharged motor. But it's really more of in the higher RPMs, and that's something that I didn't really know. I wasn't expecting. It's definitely quieter than the ECS intake was. The ECS intake, like I said, kind of all the way through the RPM band, it was really, really loud, and that was something that surprised me. Same thing with the Rock Hero intake. That thing almost makes it sound like your car's broken to some people. Like, that thing is so insanely loud. So this intake, in terms of volume wise, it's pretty much in the middle, but it's definitely a little bit on the quieter side than what I was expecting and what I was used to. This intake has a 5-inch air filter. It's a really big air filter. It's beautiful. And the whole product is really, really well made. That's the second thing I want to talk about, is how well made is the product. It has this metal heat shield that looks really, really nice. Like I said, I have the aluminum intake hose on this particular intake, and now they are metal, but everything fits together really well. I'll show you in the close-up shots. It's got a really cool little plaque that says Performance by Integrated Engineering. It looks really, really cool. But it's a really, really well-built intake, and it's definitely a little bit on the quieter side. Now, once you're in the higher RPM band, it is really loud. It is very, very noticeable from the outside. I'll play you some clips from the outside, but it sounds tremendous from the outside. And I think it is like the perfect kind of volume for me. I don't like something that's super, super obnoxiously loud, you know, that makes people actually think that there's something wrong with your car, you know. Just too much intake noise. I feel like too much of that whine would get old pretty quickly. So the third thing that I want to talk about has to do with the feel of this intake. So it could be placebo, it could not. I'm not really 100% sure, but I think I had the car for about 1,000 miles before I put the intake on, and it could be placebo, but I think that the gas pedal is just a little bit more sensitive, something like that, just a tiny little bit. Like I said, it's probably placebo, but it felt a little bit more sensitive, which makes sense. You're getting more air into the engine. So that's going to increase your responsiveness. It's going to increase your torque, your horsepower, all that fun stuff. And sometimes on downshifts, when they're really aggressive, you can hear it. You can hear a little bit right there. And let me just get around this rotary. So take a listen in the higher RPMs. You can hear it just howl right there. It sounds awesome. And here's another one. Just a fantastic noise combined with the AWE Touring exhaust. There's a mod list in the description if you want to know what is on this car and this whole setup. Make sure to also go watch the review that I have on this Touring exhaust. That'll be linked at the end of this video. That gives you a super comprehensive overlook at what the whole exhaust is like. So, in summary, this intake is not as loud as a Rock Hero, not as loud as an ECS, but I don't think that that's a bad thing. This intake, to me, is the perfect volume. Like I said, it's higher. In the higher RPMs, it is much louder, and that's what's really good. Sometimes, like 2,000-ish lower RPMs is when you're going to be seeing just maybe a little bit here and there, especially going up hills, I find, but that's just a very small thing. Build quality is fantastic. Customer service is fantastic. Sounds phenomenal. There's a cop right there. Sounds phenomenal. And what more is there to say? I mean, they're great guys. They make great products. They also make tunes for this car, and tons of other cool products that you guys can go check out. There will be a link to this intake, not this exact intake. It'll be the one with the metal hose, because you can't get the one with the silicone hose anymore. But there will be a link to this intake in the top of the description below. Right below that will be the mod list. If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, whatever about this intake or about anything else regarding the car, let me know in the comments section below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Take care.